back to Comedy or Worse. I'm here with my very special guest,
Mike McCalla.
Yay! So how you doing?
I'm good. Just got a free haircut. They were supposed to charge $7 at the barber school.
Whoa.
But they didn't charge me, so I tipped them $3 and got a free haircut.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm winning. So, no, it's good. Doing well. Downtown earlier than usual today, so it's nice to see the city in the daylight.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you use a stage name?
No, Mike McCalla.
All right.
Name from birth. Well, my middle name, but that's what I go by. And
Okay.
I have considered, because I have a job, that probably wouldn't look too kindly upon me being a comedian, even though I don't touch on topics or subjects that are typically problematic, but, so I've considered it. My first name is John, so it's John Michael, so I've considered going by John either at work or vice versa on stage, but ultimately I figured, whatever, deal with those issues as they come up.
Sure, yeah. Hopefully people can really understand that people have multiple things. Like, I can't imagine, back in the 80s, there would be no way if you,
you could easily, yeah.
You could have been a controversial radio DJ at night and be a lawyer.
Right.
And no one would say anything.
Right. And now that's not even possible.
It's so crazy.
And I work in online fraud prevention, and I'm basically account manager. So people, I work B2B with businesses, and these business people trust me to be a legitimate, a upstanding member of the community and know what I'm doing.
Sure.
But I feel this hasn't happened, but I feel if they Googled Mike McCalla San Diego, it's going to be comedian stuff come up first, and probably only, and they may second guess my seriousness kind of thing when it comes to work. Although, I don't know, recently, past 10 years, companies say they want you to bring your full life to work, your whole personality, but they don't necessarily mean that.
Right, they want you to have interesting hobbies to talk about.
But not too much.
not too interesting.
Just interesting enough for a happy hour, but yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm just going with it, and hopefully, if I get enough notoriety in comedy, then I won't need to worry about my other job anyways. So that's if it comes to that, that's the hope.
Sure. Yeah. So what are your goals in comedy?
To be as many people's favorite comedian. I just want to be as funny as possible, but recognized by people as funny and someone who they think is funny. It's not, I don't know about global domination or number one in the world or something like that. I think that should be a goal of people, to be as funny as possible, be the funniest person in the world, I think is ultimately my goal. I think that should be anyone's goal who's maybe in the very, very, very back of their head, who's trying to be a comedian, to be funny and funny. Now, comedy's subjective, so it's can I be one person's funniest person in the world, or other than someone in my immediate family, kind of thing.
Yeah, so. Sure. Yeah. What I've figured out is what I'm trying to do is broaden my humor as much as I can stand artistically, and be doing it long enough that the people that like me will come to my shows on purpose.
Mm-hmm. And then see you,
and then they'll love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to kill in a room where people don't know who you are,
especially if your comedy isn't very broad.
Right.
Would you want to? So I think you and I deal with some of the same sort of stuff like that in a way where our comedy isn't as broad. But we want to pull people in.
The crazy thing is, I want to try everything.
Right.
So I have gone up on stage with a joke that was in a totally different perspective, and I got it to a state where I liked it, but then I just kind of got bored of it. And I'm like, this is hard.
Yes, and if it's not like if you aren't behind it fully and believing in it and enjoying doing it, then it's not gonna persist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And also it's like, unless I do another one like that's totally different, and then just be like, oh, I'm gonna do jokes in different styles right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Or develop a whole other persona that you're doing. Now I'm writing jokes for that persona.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I just did a set. I did a show at Mic Drop, and I'm kind of in between acts right now. Like I have a 12-minute, 15-minute act with my jokes, but I have a lot of new jokes coming in. Rather than trying to fill them into that one, I'm just kind of restarting, whole different set. But I'm not there yet, so I'm testing things, and I have some ideas. So I tried them, and they're very different from my normal joke kind of thing.
Right.
And didn't go well at all. But it helped me get it out of my system. I was like, okay, I got it out. I thought that was funny. Maybe it could be funny. I see how much work would need to be done to get that, would be required to get to the show ready. And I'm like, ugh, I'm not sure it fits in with what I'm doing. But it was good to get it out of my system.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, there was a time where I felt like, there's been a few times where I'm like, oh, I'm just working on cleaner material. And then I'm like, okay, this isn't it's fun, but it's hard.
Yeah.
So it's like, I want to just swear and talk about dirty stuff.
I also feel like I understand your desire to go a little broader, to pull more people in, and then once you get them in, maybe narrow it down a little bit again. But then your point is also valid. Like, is that still me? Is that still what I want to be doing? So it's finding those ways to be more broad and still be true to yourself and your art, like you said.
Yeah, like, and some people were like, oh, you should just go harder. The problem is you're backing off, and it's like, yeah, for the people that really like me, they can see them being disappointed that I'm not going up there and doing silly stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab myself real quick.
Yeah.
Part of it, I think you, regardless of what you're doing, you need to commit fully to the bit. And when I'm going outside of my comfort zone,
try to sell my jokes.
Yeah.
And I'm baffled by people that aren't trying to sell their jokes.
Oh yeah, me too, man.
Like, I've seen you do that joke for years. You're still doing it the same way. You're not adding tags. You're not
fully just putting it out there. Also, they don't get to that comfort level.
And then they're like, why didn't it go that well? It's like, well, I've seen you do that joke better.
Yeah. That's something I do definitely appreciate about your comedy is you commit to the bit, and the folks that are with you want that and are down.
Yeah.
But if people aren't with you or on board, especially like at a general population show where there's no one who's there for you. It may be an open mic. It's just bam, bam, bam.
Right.
You can't try to please everybody. You got to just do your...
Well, I mean, like, I am trying to be more in the moment, though. Mm-hmm. Because, like, a newer comic once tried to give me a compliment that he's like, oh, I love how you just keep going no matter what. And I'm like, that's not exactly a compliment. I'm up there trying to sell these jokes and not doing well. I should be, like, doing something else. Or at least acknowledging it.
Sort of. Yes, but not bail. You don't want to bail.
No, I don't. No, never bail.
Right, but that guy would have, whoever that comic was. Anyway, people who
exactly.
offer that advice, they're gonna bail. They don't get a laugh. They get a little queasy. They just bail.
Also, like, I don't understand comics that are like, there's a small room, and they're expecting like a big reaction. Like, what?
Especially
Are you
like
not in the same room? Look at their faces. They're smiling. They're laughing quietly.
this is good, right? It's working.
They're paying attention. They're not looking at their
Paying
phone.
attention is a huge win at a mic for sure. Even no one's talking and everyone's looking at me and not rolling their eyes and laughing. Not loud. I'm not getting walls of laughter coming at me, but people don't. Especially the room set up. Now, if it's dark in here and kind of full, it could work. But in some rooms, they're embarrassed to laugh. If it's goofy or dumb or dark or dirty, they're embarrassed to laugh at some things that aren't, especially the ones that aren't broad material. They're embarrassed to laugh at it, but they like it. But it's just the setup is weird, and there's not anonymity. That's a big thing to get laughter. Is people feel like they're not going to get judged by laughing at it.
Dark enough in here or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, but how did you get into comedy?
Let's see. So, a long time ago, I started out, I wanted to write screenplays. So I lived in Austin. I went to college in Austin. And after college, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I figured I want to write screenplays. So I moved to LA and wrote some screenplays and didn't sell anything. Those are very different skills, writing and selling yourself, as you're aware.
I haven't wrote any screenplays yet. I wrote some short stories.
But you've written a number of jokes, and you've also worked to do self-promotion, and they're very different.
Oh my God, like trying to write the description of a product, like that is not easy.
Right. So I did that. I lived there for 5 years. Then I started writing song lyrics and like comedy, like veering into comedy stuff, because the screenplays were both drama and comedy, and I was just testing things out, but more into comedy than song lyrics, and I would record YouTube videos and put them up. But with the screenplays, they're still up. Right. Mad Mike Music, I think, on YouTube. And some parody songs and some original stuff. But again, with the screenplays, I would get maybe 1 or 2 people to read them, usually my parents. So that's not the kind of feedback that I'm looking for. And then the YouTube videos get a few clicks, and people are like, oh, that was funny. And then it goes away, and it's like, I want more direct feedback. I don't want to just be throwing things into the void that I'm spending all this time. But I had no performance background. And I lived in New York for a while, and then I moved to San Diego. So I lived in Austin, LA, and New York. And then I started stand-up comedy.
That's hilarious.
And then I started stand-up comedy in San Diego.
You picked the best scene.
I have mentioned that before, and a more seasoned comedian said it's better to come up in a secondary market where you're not going to be labeled as an open micer throughout, because I can do whatever I want to here, and if I then feel like I want to move up or move to a different place, I can kind of start fresh in another city with all these skills that I've gained from the past few. Not that I would necessarily want to move, but that's a different question. And then my wife pushed me. I kept talking about stand-up comedy. Before we left New York, we moved here, and she said, "There's a class at Comedy Palace." And I said, all right, I'll do it. So I took the class with Bijan and Gordon, Jonathan Bird, 2019, so about 6 years ago, and was off and running from there.
Oh yeah, super cool. So once you took the class, did you get addicted to comedy right away?
Pretty much, yeah. Once I got past the initial fear of going on stage, I think you were supposed to come in with 5 minutes of material and just go up, and that was the start of it. And I had 5 minutes of material all about Pinocchio, the movie, that I had memorized to a word. And I went up there and I spouted it off, and there was no pauses for laughter or really. I mean, there were punchlines, I guess, but it was just like, but that got me on stage with the lights in my eyes, and that was good. And yeah, so once I started crafting things and learning about the different tactics and techniques, and like I always, since then, I've kind of thought of it as a puzzle, like and it's always changing. And each audience, each show is a puzzle itself. How do you crack them? How do you unlock the laughter or whatever? But also in general, I think of it as a puzzle of like, sure, you need to be very funny in the moment and on stage and interacting with the audience and with that relationship, but I feel that sometimes the jokes and material are almost a puzzle of how do I find the laughter and get them on board. And there's always different, as you know, you get a laugh early, get them to know you a little bit, and then you can kind of jump around. So yeah, it was pretty instant from there. And then like 9 months later, after the class was over, a year after I started, COVID hit. And I had a kid at the same time. So the addiction had to be suppressed.
Sure.
I wasn't doing any parking lot mics or anything like that.
Yeah, I only got to go to like 2.
Yeah, I just shut down and started writing.
Here at the Madhouse, cooking food, keeping this place open. Everybody thank me! No. In person, no.
With
or
me.
in the comments. That's fine. So what is your writing process for comedy?
Well, about halfway through, maybe 2.5 years ago, I switched my style. So I'm now mostly one-liners, non sequiturs, not narrative oriented and not really autobiographical. It's really just, I try to chunk them together in subjects or concepts a little bit to help me and to make it easier for the audience to digest, but it's mostly just random, like not random, but disconnected thoughts. So my writing style now is I have the first input is I have a notes thing on my phone where I just input any thoughts I have that are maybe funny or interesting, or I write everything down. So there's lots of wordplay and puns and dumb shit that I see a connection. Oh, that could be interesting, and I just write it down. Write it down because the few times that it's like, oh, that's a good idea, and I'm driving. That's a good idea. I can't write it. I'll remember it, and then I arrive and it's gone, and and I just spend hours trying to pull it, and I can't. So I write everything down. Sometimes it's a joke that it's already formed. Maybe not complete, but if there's a setup and a punch and a twist, and okay, that's a joke. I can try that on stage. Sometimes it's just an idea that I can then connect to another previous thought that, okay, those two work together, let's combine them. Or it's just an idea, a concept, and I'll leave it there and roll it over in my head a few times, or bring it to a writing group and just, instead of here's my joke, I'll just say it,
right,
and kind of see where everyone else's word association goes. Like, what do you think? What are your, just not really necessarily their suggestions or ideas, but like where did they go with what I said, so I can understand where the audience might go. Right. And then from there, so once it becomes usable or something I can do on stage, then I have a big spreadsheet with multiple tabs that I put all the jokes on and rank them and rate them each time I tell them. I say, okay, this is what I told it this time. It worked kind of well. I give it a numerical rating. I check out how many seconds of laughter I got. So there's lots of anecdotal and
I need AI for that. That's what I want AI to do, is to analyze the joke and then like spot check it. You know?
Mm-hmm. So that's an idea, but so I also have, so when I move it, I have it digitally, and then I'll write it down on something and have it written. And then what I'm partially trying to do is keep track of everything and force myself to watch myself to record all the information from each set.
Sure.
But also have the jokes in front of my face over and over again. Okay, now I'm typing it in. Oh, now I'm moving it from my phone to this other document. Now I'm writing it down, and it's always in my head, in my face.
Yeah, writing, handwriting.
Right, so I can see it over and over again, and maybe something will click that will either make it better or make it work at all. So it's almost an exercise to force me to live within the joke world kind of thing, as opposed to strictly wanting the data analysis.
Well, I guess really, let me rephrase. I don't want AI to do it. I want to be so good that assistant people on my team can help me and go, oh yeah, you haven't done that joke in a while. You should do that joke, and then you should just do this joke right after. It's
yes.
so obvious.
Yeah.
But you're so busy doing other things.
Yeah. Any sort of, I think that would be helpful. I don't think the AI piece or an assistant would be problematic. It's more. I sure get the computer to see what avenues exist. Get another person's brain to see what. That's fine. That's great.
Like train it to like understand. The ultimate goal would be like, that's a pity laugh, right? That would, right now only humans, other comedians can even tell you that,
right?
Or but
yeah, I think there's some room for that use there for sure.
Yeah, because I've also like gotten laughs at unexpected places, and I was like, thank goodness I recorded it. Although one time I was able to talk it out and realize they laughed because I looked at my watch. And then I was able to address it. Yeah, I'm like working on the timing of my joke.
Have you seen, not to go off topic, but James Acaster has a special. He's a British comedian. No. Where I won't ruin the joke. It's very good. It's on Netflix, but he basically is timing. He talks about it at the very start. He's timing something, and then he goes off on all different sorts of tangents. And then later on, he goes, and you hear his phone. And he goes, doot, doot, and the joke hits because it's connecting back to what he had done before. So it's using
and then with one-line jokes, I forget who the comedian is. I wish I could. He's fairly good, famous comedian that would just do one-line jokes, bam, 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 almost like not even leaving time to laugh, and then it's killing and people are like laughing at a joke before or two jokes before,
and they couldn't catch up.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know how he ever got to that level. He just committed the whole time. Didn't want to. I got so many jokes to do. Just you laugh whenever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, some of it's getting. If you can get 6 or 7 jokes in a row that work, the audience is going to break and either give you an applause break or just start cracking up. But they have to all work. Once there's a dud in there, it's just you're back to square one, or you're just shit out of luck. The timing of it is difficult because you don't. It depends also. Is the other one-liners jokes they'll get immediately? It's like, oh, there's the joke, and they'll laugh, and then you move on. A lot of mine, I leave stuff out. I want the audience to do the connection themselves. Right. Your helium joke is one of those. I think that you leave it there. You're not going to explain it, the joke. You guys need to figure it out. And if you don't figure it out, you're not my audience. But you just leave stuff to make them work. I almost all of my jokes, there's something where I'm not connecting it for them. You need to do some work on your end, and
right.
And most drunken open mic audiences, or not comedy audiences who all of a sudden had a comedy show foisted upon them, aren't going to do the work. But I feel that the comedy fans appreciate that and want to do that work. So those jokes take longer for there to be laughs, and so it's hard to do. Do I follow up immediately with the next one, or do I wait and let this laughter build? Because I know some people are going to get it and start laughing, and if I step on it, then I have to move on, and I've ruined my the laughter for the joke,
Yeah.
but it's always difficult. And I'm starting
I probably will never try that style because it just seems like he must have just decided on that and went with that, and that's how he got good at it.
Yeah, it's been like 2.5 years now of trial and error and going to empty bars in El Cajon and talking into the void and seeing how it sounds to me and seeing, starting to then introduce it to real audiences and see how they respond. And so, yeah, it's different, which I think is good. It's a challenge, but I appreciate it, and that's.
Do you see yourself adding another style, or are you just gonna?
No, I'm starting to. So my the non sequiturs, the disconnected stuff, that's gonna stay. I don't know if it's one-liners necessarily. I have a few longer jokes that are either shaggy dogs or even some that don't lead anywhere. That the journey is the joke, and it's like, oh, now I'm dropping you off, and audiences just really like that. So I'm gonna stick with that style. What I'm starting to do is I've been very deadpan on stage, very dry. Not really using my facial expressions or physicality so much, but I feel those are tools I have that I'm not utilizing, and so I'm starting to respond more to the audience. So the audience doesn't laugh or does laugh. I have more and more, not canned responses, but I've received so many different types of feedback, whether it's one person cracking up hysterically and no one else, and I can have a joke for that, or if people I work with silence a lot and seeing, and people will talk to me and heckle, but again, if they're talking to me about the joke or lack of joke, they're engaged, they're focused on me. That's good, and I'm starting to be better at having funny responses or funny interaction with the crowd, and then being able to, the hardest part for me at least is trying to then get back into the flow and get back to the jokes. But I feel I'm opening up that aspect of it more, to be more focused on my relationship with the audience.
Because like I distinctly remember just thinking and going, I know this material is funnier, and then like remembering how I made friends and family laugh. It was like, well, yeah, I would use my hands, and I would so then, oh yeah, I'm not selling these jokes. And also, like, there's been comedians that give little like hints, and then you're like, oh yeah. Or like even people before said like, you're not going hard enough. It's like, oh yeah, I'm not selling the joke.
yeah, and just putting it all out there. Yeah, all your feelings about it out there. Yeah.
Like last night, I've been working on being able to address correctly, like especially young women, like will cover their face and not laugh. And when I first started it, I would make them uncomfortable, and now I think I'm getting better at like addressing it and making it funny, or at least not a negative reaction.
Yeah. Addressing it in a way that pulls it back to you, but points it out in a funny way. That's interesting.
Yeah, and then even though you shouldn't explain your jokes, sometimes it's like it's fun every once in a while just to do it anyway.
Yeah, I have audience members who explain my jokes to their friend or their partner or whoever, and I just let them. I'm just like, yeah, go ahead.
That's funny. That's cool. So, who's the funniest person in your life right now?
Wow, what a good question. My 5-year-old son. He has jokes, but when they're not jokes is the funniest, and then I'll laugh, and he's like, "Don't laugh at me." I'm like, "You're making it. It's funny." So it's hard. The innocent take on the unvarnished and innocent take on things for the first time is really an interesting point of view and funny to me.
Yeah, makes sense.
Sorry, every other comedian in town.
No. Well, I mean, that's the whole point of that question, is just to show people that the funniest people in the comedian's life probably aren't. It's not even a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked this a question of everybody. I don't always know the answer, but when did we meet?
When did we meet? I would say the Comedy Palace open mic scene.
It's probably, that sounds right.
In 2019 at some point.
Yeah, before the
Mondays
lockdown.
and Tuesdays, right? I don't know.
Yeah, that last little run where you're like trying to get on the website. I think I had it figured out, and then someone wrote a script, and it was like, "Hey, that's cheating." Wrote a bot to do it.
That was pre-AI too.
Yeah.
They had to code it themselves.
Exactly. Let's see. So, have you ever traveled to do comedy?
So when not to do comedy, I guess, but right after I finished the class, I lived in New York for 3 months for my wife's work before we had a kid. So I spent a lot of time doing open mics in New York for 2 or 3 months, right after I had started. So when I was first 6 or 7 months of comedy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
How'd you like it?
It was good. It was hard. I mean, a lot of daytime mics that I was hitting. I was just starting off. I had my 5 minutes that I developed at the class, and so I was trying to do new stuff and branch out. So it was very bad, but I think it helped a lot. It helped me because I had a year's worth of experience here and in New York when COVID hit, and I didn't do anything for a year basically. But I had a year's worth of experience to reflect on and think about in San Diego and New York, lots of different mics and setups and stuff, and a few shows in New York too. But like, I feel that was a big benefit to those of us who started before COVID as opposed to during or after, because I could use that time. I knew what stand-up was from the comedian's perspective. I knew what it was like, and I knew what kind of jokes could work and what didn't. Vaguely, like it's still early in their career, but you have an idea. If you're just off the street and you haven't been on stage at all, you don't have that concept or that knowledge. So I thought that was helpful. But yeah, I've done a few shows in Texas and maybe a mic or two in Vegas and Arizona. And I did go to the Savage Henry Comedy Festival in Northern California, so like Redwoods, Arcata, Eureka area.
That's cool.
Last October. Plan on going there again this October, so that's fun.
So you got to perform there?
I did.
Yeah. Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. So do you have a hobby or passion that's not related to comedy?
Not right now.
All right, he's all in.
Not anymore. I mean, I have my job, I have my family, my wife and kid, and stand up. It's pretty much my focus. Yeah.
Sweet. Cool. Do you wish you started comedy earlier?
Oh man. Well, like I mentioned, I've lived in the 3 hottest comedy spots in the country before I started doing stand up. I lived a block away from the Laugh Factory in LA, in Hollywood, when I was writing screenplays, and like my roommate tried open mics, but I was like, nope, not good on stage. That's not what I want to do. That's not for me. So I do have a little bit of regrets, I guess, on that, but I think it's for the best. I don't know if I would have found the style that I'm doing now earlier in my life.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good fit for me. I think it fits with who I am as a person and what I present typically with when I'm in humorous situations, not on stage. I also think that if I had started comedy at 25 or earlier, that I would have been so focused on that stand-up and trying to work out jokes and material and solve the puzzle or whatever, that I wouldn't have I wouldn't have had so much life experience separately from that I can, whether I talk about it or not. Like, I'm not going to talk about, oh, I had a job once and did this. I'm not going to say that on stage. But all of that life experience, informs who I am on stage. And I think that's extremely important, especially when you're trying to connect with audience members who aren't comedians and aren't performers and you're not going to get your inside jokes about the light or anything like that. You need to be able to understand what their lives are like. And so I feel that does help. So I'm not, I also don't like looking back and saying, oh, what could have been, what could have, would have, should have kind of thing. So slightly, I've had that thought, but I think it's for the best.
Yeah, I think I just like to ask that question more for hear a bunch of different comics' perspective and to let the audience know, if you are writing jokes and putting them on social media, take those jokes and say them on stage.
Yes.
That's my advice.
That was one of the big push that I had. So I was doing, autobiographical jokes, talking about myself. Then I talk about my view on things in the world, blah, blah, blah. Very typical earlier, starting off comedian stuff. And I had a joke about ocean spray drinks being salty. So not being salty, I don't know what it was exactly, but right. I put it on Facebook, and someone who, not a comedian, but someone whose perspective on comedy I respect and appreciate, said, that's a great one-liner, however I worded it. That's a great one-liner. I was like, it's not a great one-liner, but maybe there is some great one-liners in there. And sure. So then I tried it on stage, and I was like, okay, that feels good. And we had a few other one-liner comics in town, more then than now. And I liked how the audience responded to them. I liked how I responded to them. And I kept seeing the other comedians, and I was like, oh, get to the joke. Come on, get to something funny. What are we waiting for? And I was having that thought about them, and I was like, well, if I'm having that thought, then the audience is probably having that thought about me. So I should get to the joke and stop with all this information that I'm providing. They don't care about that. They want funny. Right. If the information has a joke attached to it, okay, great. But otherwise, just... So that's when I started. So those two different combined things kind of led me to shift my style.
It's interesting. Yeah. That's cool. So what is your favorite joke? It could be anybody's joke.
My favorite joke is Stephen Wright. He says, I got food poisoning last night. Haven't figured out who to use it on. And it's simple, and it's just a twist, and it's right there. It's right there. But people don't, and people just walk by it. Food poisoning, they just walk by it all the time. They don't think about it.
I'm jealous because it feels like that's something I could have thought of.
Yes, it's right. Yes, exactly.
God damn it! Why'd you have to come first? I'm gonna do something like that joke. It's different, but exactly the same. I feel like I haven't done it in a while, but what do you think about like repetition? Like I had a joke where I'm like, have you ever laundered money? And it's like this, keep asking in these different places or whatever. I don't even know why I thought that was funny, and I might, but then again, it's like I want to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I have repetitive, like I have like 8 bird jokes that I usually tell in a row. Not this, so it's touching on that repetition kind of thing, but not like the Family Guy, like boom, 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 boom until they break like that. I can't think of any off the top of my head that I utilize, but I think it's an interesting tactic to use if the audience is on your side, then you have a little more leeway there and some room to work with. But if you're trying to get them on board and you're like,
all right, yeah. Speaking of which, do you have like a favorite fan interaction? Either someone was a fan of your comedy or you were a fan of someone else.
Yes. So that's Stephen Wright again. After a show I did 2 years ago, I had to leave early because I did my set and I left. And the producer sent me a video of a guy afterwards who had been very complimentary of my act and so he recorded like a 15-second thing of the guy saying, who was the guy's name? Mike McCalla. Yeah, he was great. The guy he was like Stephen Wright, which I'm not like Stephen Wright, but I'm gonna take the compliment.
Sure.
And he said that guy, you could tell he worked on his stuff and he was that boom and you could see in his face the appreciation that he had, and his voice, and it was very like genuine and heartfelt. So that's my favorite fan interaction. I wasn't there for it.
Yeah.
But I have it recorded for posterity forever.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah, like I have a similar story that Josh Krebs. It was actually the punch through oxygen joke when I first started doing that. And some people outside, and it's downtown San Diego, so like there's a car honking, and it's like, but it's so great. You have a video, and it's like, yeah.
It's a nice feeling.
Yeah, for sure. So what is your favorite place to do comedy?
I can't say this room. Could be. It could be this room if they had shows in here, I think. But I would say Duckfoot. Bigger crowd, 250 people or so, because that creates some anonymity, and I'm not so broad, but if I can get 1 out of 10 people laughing hard in a room of 30, that's not going to work very well. But with 250, that'll get contagious, and people will say, "Oh, it's okay to laugh at that stupid joke," and they'll laugh. I get more nervous, I guess, in smaller crowds, and I was like, you need to make these 4 people laugh, or this is gonna go horribly. So I don't. The nerves aren't as strong. I don't think. I just feel more loose when it's a larger crowd. So, yeah, I would say outside venue at Duckfoot, which is strange because I like, smaller rooms and clubs typically, but yeah, that's what.
Oh yeah, cool. So what was your family life growing up?
My parents are both retired Marines. I'm the oldest of 3, so we moved around a lot, and so they were my audience pretty much. Growing up, we traveled around, and then I would have the same people around me. My dad retired when I was in high school, and we moved from Hawaii to Texas. So I lived in small town Texas. I was a football star in Central Texas, and then it was. My parents are still together. Not sure. Yeah, it was,
Cool. So what's your earliest memory?
Boy, let me tell you, having a kid, you really start to interrogate the earliest memories, and all sorts of things in your childhood, how your parents did things, but yeah, earliest memories, because my earliest memories around when I was 4 or 5. I probably I have some memories of the smell actually from the Virginia sewers.
Wow.
Learning to ride bikes and just the sulfur smell, the rotten egg smell coming up.
Yeah.
And my son was just reading Bears on Wheels last night, which was one of the first books that I ever read.
Yeah.
And I have hazy memories of a scratch and sniff sticker that smelled like ham and said "Hamtastic." I don't think this is accurate, but that's what was my memory. So that's around then. Those couple memories. It's a little helpful growing up where you move around a lot, because certain areas I know when the time frame was. Like I know when I lived in Virginia, and I can isolate all of those memories into one section, and then now another section when I moved here, or et cetera, et cetera. So, but yeah, either the sewer or the book or the sticker. But having a kid, and he's about to turn 5 this week, and you remember, like, oh, that's when memories are. He's gonna remember everything that's happened, like not everything, but he's gonna remember things forever. I better get my start. Like, I need to know no more screwing around with parenting. I got to be the best dad possible, because he's gonna remember this long after I'm gone. Who knows when I'm gonna fall dead, and I have to have this impression on him. So it's a good question, and something you definitely think about more deeply if you happen to have kids.
Yeah. I don't have any kids, but I help raise my sister's kids.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, seeing things through their eyes is interesting for sure.
Yeah, and you maybe think, well, what's their earliest memory going to be?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So have you ever won a comedy contest or anything like that?
No.
All right. What's your best booking story? Either you booked someone that you thought you couldn't get, or you got booked on a show, and you're like, oh my god, I got booked on this show.
The lawnmower. I can't think of anything right now, actually.
A lot of secrets, he's like very full.
I don't want to blow anybody up.
Who knows what's going to happen? You may have to cancel.
Yeah, exactly. That happens. I would have said one person, but they canceled, so I was like, oh.
Right, exactly.
No success. No major successes.
That's fine. But can we talk about U31?
Sure.
So how did you? Tell me about it.
Sure. We'll get to that. So, a year and a half ago. So I was doing the one-liners, and I was doing open mics, but I needed to get shows because I needed to get the feedback from the audience, so I could then work with it and see how it was gonna go. And I wasn't getting that from open mics. So I thought, okay, well, I guess I gotta, and I wasn't getting booked too often. So I was like, I gotta figure my own stuff out. And I was looking around for venues, and I'd hosted a few times, like hosted open mics, and I'd hosted some shows for people, and I enjoyed that. It's very different for me. I'm a very different act hosting than I am doing a set, which is kind of what I'm trying to incorporate into my act more, is the hosting persona, or the hosting. It's much more of who I am holistically, as opposed to the very narrow, deadpan, dry act that I do. And I liked hosting, and I liked doing it, so I was like, all right. And I liked putting the lineups together and like producing a show. I was like, okay, let's find a venue. And I threw 3 lines in the water. So U31 had mentioned that they were looking for comedy 6 months prior to that. And I think they had done a few shows there and fizzle out or whatever. But I reached out, cold called. Basically, I was like, hey, are you still looking for comedy shows? And then I also, my wife's gym, I has a space, and I was like, hey, I know the owner, I'm close with them. So I said, do you mind if can I do a comedy show in the gym for the gym members and anybody else who wants to come? And then I worked with Taylor Spencer to talk to Diversionary Theater, which is an LGBTQ plus theater near my house in University Heights, that I kept walking by and seeing this beautiful stage and wondering what's going on here. You guys going to use this for something? And so I threw 3 lines in the water, expecting none of them to bite, and they all bit.
Wow.
So at first, I was doing a monthly show for a little bit at U31, but I knew they wanted me to do weekly, and that was on Wednesdays. And then the gym show at first was every month, but I didn't have any equipment yet. I was in the process of getting equipment. I was borrowing other people's equipment, and I hadn't produced shows or hosted much shows, so I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew.
Sure.
So I kind of finagled it, and now, a year and a half later, I have a weekly show on Fridays, not Wednesdays. It was Wednesdays for 9 months or so, but it's a weekly show on Fridays at U31. Right. A monthly show with Taylor at Diversionary.
Nice. And
a quarterly show at the gym. So that's more whenever I want to, because it's just me, and I have to do more work. I have to bring all the chairs and everything.
Sure.
But so now I have 3 shows that I produce at different cadences, weekly, monthly, and quarterly.
Oh yeah.
So for the past year and a half, I have 2 things going on. I have one, let's write jokes, let's work on jokes and build material and build time. And then I'm also producing multiple shows at once. And so I have a spreadsheet for each one of those shows, and blocking out, figuring out who's going to come and what the lineup's going to look like. And then I have all the jokes. And for a while, all of 2024, so we're in March of 2025 now, and all of 2024, I didn't really add many new jokes. I wanted to get, because like you were talking about, when I'm working on something, if I don't know the words, or if I don't know the order of the jokes by heart, or like hard coded in my head, then I can easily, I know, just happy birthday style, I know what comes next. I can jump back in at any time. When I'm working on something, it all collapses. It doesn't hold up. The audience isn't going to laugh, and for a while that bothered me, but then I realized, okay, that's just how it is. But for all of 2024, I stopped adding new stuff. I stopped trying to find another joke. This is what I'm going to say. When I'm hosting, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to get to my 5 minutes. When I'm doing a set, I'm just going to do this for 5, 8, 10 minutes, or whatever it is, and it's going to be the same thing over and over again. So I can get the persona down. I think I have a stage. I think I know what my voice is going to be. I think I know how to be on stage, but I can't be thinking about what I'm going to say all the time to get there. I can't be thinking about what joke's next. I can't have to, oh yeah, I wanted to add this one in there, because then when I start going back in there, the audience, I lose them, because you're trying to think about what you're saying. So I focus on I'm going to say, right. I'm going to do this.
Yeah, that's a whole other skill set. Because, I have been able to, go up there with just a general idea of what I want to talk about, and sometimes it goes horribly and sometimes it goes good.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you should do that.
Yeah. I like crowd interaction. I like being loose, but I like doing it after I've done a few jokes. I like getting them on my wavelength and in my joke world, and then being able to play around a little bit. So right now what I'm trying to do is, okay, let's be able to find 4 or 5 jokes to get started, and then be flexible enough to go in different directions depending on what the crowd,
right.
how they're reacting. Because I'll have people say, "Oh, you must be a dad," in the middle of a joke that has nothing to do with parenthood or anything like that, because there's a dad joke, right? Oh, you must be a dad. And I can either say, yes, I am, and then go back to the joke, or preferably go into jokes that lean into that or are ostensibly about raising a kid or whatever. Like I have jokes that, this is it's a joke about being a kid. It's not really a joke about it. But so I'm trying to be more flexible to like, okay, they want me to, I can go that way. I can go that way and then jump back and grab this thread.
That just reminded me. If the next time someone is filming when they shouldn't be filming, I should do my camera bit. Why didn't I think of that before?
Just tying.
It would have to be on a show because I would have to have enough time.
Yeah, tying it into something and being able to, and I'm starting to do it like at open mics when I go and it's the loose one, and someone will say something. I'm like, okay, well I don't need to. So often I go in. Anybody goes in. I want to say this, and then someone says something that distracts you or pulls you in a different direction. You're like, no, I'm not going there. I need to say this. You don't need to say that. Just go in that direction. Go in that direction. And I want to be able to go in that direction.
I hope that they've learned that.
Yes. I want to be able to go in that direction with some jokes already thought out a little bit, as opposed to just going off loose. But yeah, I mean, I've had nights where I come, because I go out twice a week. I have my Friday show, and I try to, now that I'm not working on jokes as opposed to my stage presence and persona, I'm going to more mics now, usually on Tuesdays and Fridays. So when I go out on Fridays, I'm just doing hosting and barely any jokes at all. But when I'm doing the mics, I'm just, if they say something, I'm like, all right, let's go. I'll go in that direction. I might have to go to my notes. I don't like looking at my notes. I don't even like having them on me. But I want to be able to go in that direction. If it requires me then losing my train of thought, I do want to try some of these new jokes, but I don't want to force them, I guess is how it is.
Yeah, for me, like, I was trying to go through a cycle where I bring notes on stage and then take them away and then, then not need them and then work, and then start the process over again. But I found that the notes was too distracting. So I'm not even going up with bullet points anymore.
Yeah.
If I can't remember it,
you just go with wherever it goes.
I'll just do a totally different joke that maybe pops in my mind.
Yeah. So
that's going way so good.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I think it's not like, I'm doing so good, I'm getting booked on these shows. It's that I feel like I'm building skills. Like, I don't know. Everybody has their own path, but I feel like I'm definitely taking this long road. But I feel like people are going to at some point be surprised when I pass them. Because it's like, wait a minute. Wait, what? He started his own sketch show and it's on TV? Like, what? You know what I mean?
Right.
Or whatever.
Right. Because they're on, I don't know, it's like a car racing analogy or something, but they're doing their laps and they think they're getting, and you're off tinkering on the side and seeing how things rev up.
I'm
and
going off-road.
Right. And then all of a sudden you jump back on. Wait, where did all those skills come from? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I stopped bringing notes on stage midway through that last year, that period where I was doing the same material. I was like, okay, I don't need this. I don't want to have it at crutch. I don't want to have it on me because I can focus and be more free. I just put it in my pocket, but it's like right there, and it pops into your head.
Yeah, like the last straw was I took notes on stage on a show at Madhouse on a Sunday night, and all of a sudden all my memory went away, and I literally was like up there looking at my big crutch, like I would have fell down without them. I probably would have been fine without them.
You would have been fine, yeah.
And then the audience noticed, and then the booker noticed or told joking around with me, and then I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
I know myself. What people have to understand is they gotta like know themselves.
Trust in your comedic sensibilities.
You know, like know that I cannot go up with notes anymore because I'm just gonna fall into the
and also
bad habit.
Yeah, and also like it's not the material. It's not the jokes, really. It's not the material. It's your relationship with the audience. And if you have found who you are on stage, you should. It's hard, but you should be able to then roll with that and figure it out.
Yeah.
Much harder or easier said than done, but and it's hard to get away from that. I mean, not to say that jokes or material is a crutch, but that's what you can do without. Once you have your stage, you know who you are. That's what they're there for. That's what they want. Even if you're telling one-liners, it's about the feeling that you're creating.
Even like, can you imagine like there's a big show and then an hour before the big show something major happens in the news, and people can't even like think about anything else. Like that, you got to be able to like go up there and talk about it. Like it only happened an hour ago. Like you don't have any time to write about it.
These aren't jokes. I'm just talking about it. And I'm talking funny about it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, George Foreman died an hour before my Friday show. That was not big enough news to. There weren't the ripples going through the audience of, oh my God, the Foreman. But I hear you.
I don't know. Maybe that's not. I don't know. It's not like I want to talk about the news. I just want to have like be able to have all the skills.
You have to
be
connect.
able to, any distraction. Someone got up to go to the bathroom. You have something for that.
Yep, that matches with who you already are on stage. Yeah, because you can't take someone else's tag, or you can't take someone else's audience interaction thing and use it for yours. So you have to find your own that work, that come naturally.
Yeah, hopefully you don't do it. I mean, there are cases of parallel thinking, or also subconscious. Like some people, like you maybe saw somebody do something, and then you don't write it down, and then you do the same thing, and then someone will call it out. It's like, oh yeah, either it's parallel thinking, or it was my subconscious remembering that that's what they did was funny, and then you do it, and it's funny.
Yeah, and it's innocuous, but then people are like, ugh.
Yeah, it just exactly. So, what is the worst thing about comedy right
now?
That you can
specifically for me that I have to deal with, or in general?
Whatever you want, however you want to take
the worst thing about comedy right now
is this podcast.
Or worse.
I can't believe you're making me talk about comedy.
No, let's see. The worst. I mean, I think mostly positive thoughts about comedy. I would say the worst thing is that, and this is from a booker's perspective, that anybody who can, the mindset that if someone calls themselves a comedian, that you should feel obligated to book them on your show. And that's just not the case. And if you're trying to put on a good show for the audience, then you need to find people who are going to entertain them.
Okay, can we talk about booking?
Sure.
Because maybe I'm just trying to do too many things, but I have a system and I'm not 100% happy with it, because yes, I will occasionally get comics that I wish I would have better comics. But so the system is, there's a slotted, it's a private list. There's a whole bunch of people that I email, and it's just random who's actually responding, And sometimes, like this last week, like, oh my God, it was like there was still slots open, you know, and I think maybe I need to like either maybe start culling the list, taking the people off that keep doing bad or keep flaking, and adding
certainly flaking.
You know, people. So how do you book?
So your situation is different a little bit because it is an open mic.
Well, I'm trying to have a featured comics and then an open mic, and we just have an open mic because the previous owner, we made the mistake of doing an open mic there, and then he's like, "Oh, let's do this," because a lot of people showed up.
Right. So I have, as we both know, I have been to your show a number of times. I've hosted it a few times. I would say 10 minutes is too long for most comedians in 10 years and under, almost.
Okay.
When I do my and I found out the hard way, it's like, oh, the audience is kind of turning off at about 8. So most of my booked spots are 8 minutes or 5 or 6. Maybe the closer has 10 or 12. I usually don't take someone's word for it,
right,
that they can do 10 or they have 10 minutes. I think the last time I hosted, you front-loaded, and this was kind of a surprise. If you're aiming for this, that's fine, but you kind of front-loaded the feature comedians, so it was like 4 or 5 10-minute spots at the start, and then the rapid-fire 3 or 4 minute open mic people coming in. But a few of the featured spots were weak, so they weren't good. And if you have 20 minutes of bad comedy at the start, that can sabotage the whole evening from an audience's perspective.
Right.
So I would think maybe culling your list of featured comics to like tiering them and then cutting off a tier or two,
right,
and say you just come for the open, you just get your 4 minutes. That's all you need, and maybe elevating one person a week who's borderline. Maybe you can do 8 minutes and let them do 8 minutes, but not more than that. And then the rest of the features are people who are doing shows around town and who are getting booked and who an audience is going to respond to. Now, you never know what they're going to do. The other thing, the issue I have sometimes is I book someone, I expect them to do one thing that I've seen them do a bunch of times, and they're trying something new, or they've gone a different direction,
right,
and it's like, oh, that's not what I expected. That's not what I booked you for or expected. But I've also done that myself as a performer, and it's like, well, I don't want to tell people do this exact material or do this exact joke. I don't want to have that sort of heavy-handed approach. So I would say cull it. I would say cut it down 8 minutes, 6 minutes for some. If it's gonna be a show followed by a mic, which I do. I've done that sometimes. I do 31 where I have a show and then a closed mic, more invite only kind of. It's basically a featured comics, but there's shorter sets. And I would have more of not a break. You want to go move to it, but more of this is a show, and perhaps have a separate host for the first part, the show part, and then say, now we're moving to the speed round, or now we're going to the open mic section where you can sign up if you'd like. And then switch immediately into the shorter stuff, and maybe have a few good comedians do 3 or 4 minute sets at the very beginning, just punchy stuff, get the crowd into it, get laughter going,
right, yeah,
as opposed to
if
you start with one person with 10 minutes, the whole show basically revolves around whether is dependent upon how they do.
Right, yeah, like Joe Smith is hosted, and then he like put a feature and somebody that's in an open mic slot that's going to do good, and then another feature, and then and that worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying, going with the flow and like trying. I guess the part of the problem is I'm trying to make it as good a show as I can and not take up all my time. So that's what I'm kind of balancing.
Yeah.
Because it's also Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
And then I've done things like, well, there's not enough people signing up. Add more features because we want to like make it at least an hour and a half.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the other option potentially would be to switch to one of those nights instead of both. But because then you have more focus. Maybe the audience is like, okay, I can make this part of my weekly. So I've started to get people who come out every week to the show because they trust my judgment in comedians. They like me as a host. They like the environment. If I was doing it Friday and Saturday or Thursday and Friday, I think that might get lost in a little bit. But from my perspective, the Quantum Brewery stuff is very comedian focused. It's very beneficial for comics.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to do a bunch of time in between everybody.
Right. No, it's there. Each comedians can go. It's free. They get 3 or 4 minutes, usually 4 minutes, and they can go twice in one, like both Friday and Saturday, and get a good time there. I think
there are times when it's been 3 minutes, but a lot of times it's like 5 minutes.
Yeah, depending. Yeah. And I think now you're trying to shift a little bit to be a little more audience focused and make it more of a show for the audience as opposed to a way for comedians to get their, try things out and work on things.
Yeah, I mean, like really, it started off as a show, and it was every other week, and then Madhouse wasn't going, and I saw a need for
sure.
an open mic, so made the mistake of saying on the off nights we have an open mic, but we have new owners there, and I don't know if I don't want to just cut it down to one night.
Well, yeah, you might cut off your nose to spite your face, kind of thing.
Or maybe just like, I just gotta think, or just keep doing everything I'm doing, but with these suggestions, these are great. Yeah, because I like to try everything, and I was like, instead of cutting it down, I was like, well, there are comics that have more than 10 minutes. Austin Train did 20 minutes. Andy Whiskey did 17. She scheduled to do 20, and it wasn't that great of a crowd, and she did 17 and a half, and I was fine with that. But when the other people in the show aren't expecting that, I did, feel a little bit like,
I
what
think
are we doing?
I think the audience that's surprising to the audience and the other comics. But it's helpful, I would guess, helpful for Austin and Andy to have that time to stretch out.
Yeah.
But I think that would, if it's not announced or planned, that can take away from the momentum. I do think it's nice, like having 3 or 4 minute sets. Open mic comedy is interesting. As whether the comedians are good or not, the nature of you wait 3 or 4 minutes and someone else is going to come up and you get a new perspective on things and a whole new face to look at. That quick shifting is almost the only benefit from an audience perspective for an open mic, because you're not going to get the best comedy in the world necessarily, but you get to get a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different styles of comedy in a short period of time. That to me is the benefit for an audience member.
Maybe you could just have the wording and be like, okay, this is the headliner, and everybody understands that they're going to do more time.
Yeah. And
not always have to have a headliner, but I want to get these better comics to come. So, I'm not going to go through for 10 minutes.
I would say to get better comics to come, don't focus on the carrot of time or more time, I would focus on the smaller incremental improvements to make the show better for audience members.
Right.
Get more real audience members in there. That room can be good if there's 20 legitimate people in there watching.
Yeah.
Even 10. I've had a good show with 3 people. 3 people only in there, but they were focused and they were listening. There were a number of comedians in the room too, but if you can get 15 people there watching who aren't comedians, that can work. And good comedians will want to do more. But when it's just a room of comedians, it's not necessarily lit 100%. It's not your fault, but it's not lit like a comedy show necessarily, and there's no stage to stand on, and the bar is right there where you're going to be clinking and stuff all the time.
Oh, that hand dryer drives me crazy.
Oh, the bathroom, yep. So all these different things are working against you.
Or talk to them about moving to paper.
Yeah, so can you move back to paper and kill some trees so we can not stop killing our jokes? I think that would be a better carrot for comedians, is to know that you can have them and they can do 8 minutes as opposed to 15, but 8 minutes in front of a good crowd that hasn't been battered with open mic stuff yet.
Right.
Like, have a few good comedians that are early, punchy, then the 3 or 4 features, and then a headliner maybe, and now we're gonna start the rapid fire section or the speed round, I say, or you can say open mic. It depends how you want to approach it.
Yeah, there's so many possibilities. It's like, okay, just sign up for the open mic and come, and then we'll see who's there and how much, and okay, you're going to get bumped up from the open mic, you're going to feature, you're going to do 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe that's a way to
it's like,
that would make it easier to run it.
Yeah, and for me, like, I have the closed mic sometimes after the show, and then I sometimes pop people in. I have 5-minute pop-in spots, and then 8-minute booked spots, and then maybe a 10 and 12-minute closer. And if someone's asking me about a spot, but I'm not sure they can do 8 or 5, I'll say, can you come to this mic after the show, this date? We're going to have some 3 or 4-minute spots, see how they do at the audience, and do I move them to the different tier, you're maybe part of this other, I can book you for a 5-minute pop-in spot, or no, so it also helps me to have those levels where I can say you can do this instead, and then if they bomb or if they don't do well at the closed mic or a pop-in, I can say, well, there's a reason. The reason that I'm not booking you for this is because we saw, like, you may have had a different understanding of how that went, but
right.
I was there, and the audience did not respond to what you were putting out there. It's just,
what I think I'm leaning towards is really, really culling the featured spots.
100%.
Absolutely down. 2, here's this. I'm only gonna send out feature that they're so good that they wouldn't sign up for the open mic.
Yeah, that's about right. I mean,
right? So
no one should.
Behind the scenes,
no one should feel.
2 bookers are working here. Maybe the general audience isn't interested, but these other comics should be listening. Like, you think that we don't think of things? Thinking of everything, trying stuff.
I will say, no one should feel like they're above signing up for an open mic to go out and do it. But
right, no, I'm not saying that they think that they're above. It's just they're getting booked enough.
Yeah, they don't.
That they're
Fridays and Saturdays
where it is. And I'm also not punishing anybody for just showing up. Oh. Right? You show up, you go up. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of the only reason he started the list online, it was seeing other open mics, and like everybody is wanting to sign up, and you can't even get the show started. Like, it's nice to have the fucking, at least some names written down, and I can manipulate them. And also, I don't have spreadsheet for everything, but I have a spreadsheet, guys. I have a spreadsheet of every single person that has ever come to Quantum Brewing.
I believe it. I just put out this morning. I put out a call on Facebook. I said, just react. It was last night. React or
I saw that. You're
post
like,
something.
I'm writing it as I'm typing this.
But I needed to update my list of comedians, and I'm not going to take people off. I'm not going to say, oh, if I know they're doing it, I'm not going to take them off. But there's a lot of new comedians who I don't know of, and who I need to add to my list. I do think one thing from a comedian's perspective, for Quantum, it would be helpful once you figure out how you want to handle this, for people to know. I know you want them there to buy beer and be there for longer, but for them to know when they're like they signed up for spot 16 or whatever it is, or they're gonna.
Okay, I'll tell you why I started to do it is because people weren't there when their spots.
So if they're not there, you move them to the back.
Right.
And they have to wait.
And then also.
But it doesn't have. But you don't have 8.
Okay. Another reason is to make it the best show. Like, you're gonna put the better comedians first.
So then don't have them sign up for a slot.
There's no, like, I can put the wording, if you look at it, there's no numbers.
Okay, what about this?
There's no numbers.
What about
there used to
you sign them up, they all put their names in the little slot, and then on a Thursday, I don't know, it's probably too much work, you send it out. When they get, I don't know. Fuck them, all right.
Right, but let's talk that out.
Okay.
Right? So then the first 3 comics aren't even there. Like, it. But also, like, and people come and like want to take a picture of the list, and I'm like, no, don't. It's also
it's
like,
ever evolving. It's a living document.
Yeah, I know it's not how anybody else does it, but I'm like I'm learning as I go, and there's reasons like, oh, I see this comic that's good, it's getting restless. Maybe I should put them up. When you want to get really deep, like,
I think that there would be less restless comedians if there was more, if there was a set lineup at some point that they could then, as the source of truth. I understand wanting to be flexible, but I think that might cause more restlessness than standing around. If they know where they're going to go.
Yeah, but then what they also do is like wander off.
Well, if you stick to the time, then people learn quickly. If they miss their spot, they got to wait till the end. Whether they're good or not, they'll learn. Okay, I need to be here on time. And as if you start to get more of an audience, then that's when you have more leverage.
But like when Joe Smith is hosting, he doesn't have the whole list figured out. He's kind of doing what I'm doing, but he's even better at it.
Right, but
does that make sense? Like,
yeah, but if you're able to,
and he makes it a really good show.
Yeah, I know, but if you're able to do that beforehand, it's helpful to the comedians.
It's so hard.
I know.
Beforehand.
I know.
I could try again, but it's changing anything is super hard. Getting everyone to be there at the same time is super hard.
I know. I deal with it with shows too, where people are, I'm gonna be there midway through, or I need to leave early now, but I have a set thing. This is the lineup, and then I'm very flexible with it. Oh, I need to leave early. Okay, move you to the front. But part of it is, if you are only working with comedians you know are gonna do pretty well, it's easier to kind of move them around. But when it's open micers at varying levels of experience and funny,
I think it's also where the location is. It's like we're not getting like
there's no walking. There's no walking. It's not here.
Yeah, so it's like the reason people are going later is because they're on other shows. The reason people are going up early is because they're going to leave to go to another show.
Yeah.
So it's very flexible.
But the more
just
you're able to improve the audience, improve the show, the more leverage you have, the more people will want to leave some other show to get to Quantum.
My pushback is those people that are getting uncomfortable are like mid-tier comics anyway. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not so worried about it. I don't know, it's hard to explain.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, but I don't know. Do you want to have 15 comics hanging out outside and then in the back and kind of disrupting the show and making like it's a good hang, but is that
okay, like even
negatively impacting the show experience?
Because it's a good hang and a good show, there's comics that are still hanging out even after they did their set. It's not like they each leave.
Yeah.
Right? But, so like some of these solutions, it's not always going to solve the whole thing.
Because it creates another problem.
Yeah. Right. I appreciate the feedback and advice, but I don't know. I mean, I guess I could try again.
I mean, I don't have any silver bullets. It's just thoughts and for me, like also, I try something new basically every week. I'm trying something is new or tweaked a little bit to try to improve, and sometimes they work, and I keep them as a change, or sometimes they don't. Oh, that doesn't work.
Are you getting people's email addresses?
Yeah, through any Eventbrite signups.
Right. So I got Eventbrite, get email addresses, and then I'm also trying where they scan a QR code.
Yeah, I try to get. I did a while not getting. I have an email list if I wanted to collect emails. I also had a thing where a QR code for follow the comedians on social media, but ultimately, I want to get money to pay the comedians or pay for the advertising, or whatever, posters or something. I'm not really buying anymore, but so I don't. All this other stuff is distracting or takes away from the potential of getting tips and getting money. So my focus is on
the tip jar. I added a QR code where you scan it and you can vote for your favorite comedian, and it collects their email address. It says email mailing list, so it's very clear. I'm not trying to pull a fast one on people. Like
good.
But this incentive to give me your email address, and some people might already have their email address because they already signed up through Eventbrite.
Sure.
And it's like I've gotten like 5 emails so far, or 6 or something. So these are long-term things. Like 103 people on Eventbrite have purchased tickets, and I'm also trying to work on. For a little while, it was a donation, and then the original owner didn't like that because people were calling, "It's a free show. Why do I have to pay?" And I had the wording as good as I could, but we're going to work with the new owners to change that back to a donation, because now they're invested. They gave $1, they gave $5, they gave $10. The more money 100%. They pay ahead, the more likely they are to come. The more likely they are
to be a good audience member because they're committed. They're safe for the thing. They paid for it. Yeah, I'm engaging with that thought process now as well. Is free shows are good.
I would, as long as the venue isn't upset with you that you are having. I don't think anyone's going to call U31 and say,
"No,
how come it's a free show? How come I have to donate?"
Right. But I would rather just say it's $5 now or $10 or $5 show or something like that. Yeah, I might just make it paid because you get a much better idea of how many people are coming to the show if they have to pay $5. If you rather than just that's free, I'll just sign up for it, and if I think about doing it or remember,
maybe I should.
I'll go. But you also want to make sure then you have to start collecting money, and you're basically a cashier, and you have to do all that. But they're invested, and you have to make sure also that you're providing $5 or whatever it is amount of value the show's worth. Like you have to, I would get that show to where you can feel it's good, and then.
I think that $5 is a reasonable price for what we're we're giving people, and I think I could just make it for Eventbrite. You pay $5 on Eventbrite,
right?
And you also get if you got a flyer, then the show is maybe free,
right? Something like that.
You know. Anyway, I appreciate your talking to me about booking stuff. Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I do. I'm starting a new show. It's more than just stand-up. So, it's the stand-up sit-down show.
Wow.
This is first one's going to be at Mic Drop on April 23rd. It's a Wednesday. So far, it all exists only in my head and this piece of paper. But basically, I've invited 3 comedians for the first version. It's Taylor Spencer, Supna Iyer, and Michael Hall will be joining me. They're each going to do a tight 5 minutes. And then, so I'm going to introduce the show and welcome everybody, bring each comedian up. They're going to do 5 minutes each. And then I'm going to bring all 3 of them up, sit them down on stools all together on the stage, and I will be asking them questions and talking to them as much as possible about the jokes and the material that they just presented in the room.
Okay.
So I will have questions that I might, about their writing style or techniques or their background, their history of comedy, etc.
Recording?
Yes, yeah, I'll be recording it. But most what I'm trying to do is, as they're writing during their 5 minutes, writing down thoughts I have and writing down tags or different avenues of what the audience might want to ask about a joke. To try to keep as much of it focused on what's been presented in the room as possible. So as much as it was what they talked about on stage, and make jokes about that, have each of the comedians stay and watch all the, be there for both of the other 2 comedians, so they know what's going on and they know the audience, so we can all just talk about the jokes that just happened, that we just saw, as much as possible. And that panel discussion will be about 15 to 20 minutes, and then I have Connor Costello headlining and close it out with some good comedy for this first one. And yeah, I'm excited about it. I like talking about jokes and comedy and diving deep. So far
that's great. So it's like you're able to do like a show and a podcast.
Kind of, yeah.
I'm jealous.
I
got to do a show at Mic Drop in the Vote Room. It was called Comedy or Worse, where I brought on comics that had been on the podcast, and I introduced them. Oh, this comic was on episode 11 or whatever.
Right.
So that was really good.
Yeah, you had a good time, right? It was good.
Yeah. It's just really hard to get people to buy tickets.
Yes.
So I wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank you.
And also, I was bad at the calendar, and I picked Father's Day. And then I did not change the theme. Nobody talked about fathers.
Well, there's a whole section of people out there who aren't invested in Father's Day.
Yeah. So
who like comedy or worse.
Yeah, that was not easy. But anyway.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that, and I'm working on figuring out how to. I've never done anything like that. I've never done a podcast. I'm not a talk show host, but I like talking about comedy. I like talking about people's thought process and a joke and how. And
what I would suggest is you start a podcast just to promote the show.
Well, I'm going on podcasts to promote the show.
There you go, the smart way.
Yeah. I don't have to buy all this stuff. You already did it.
But that's a good idea. But are you gonna have like it be a podcast though? Like have its own RSS?
I'm just gonna not at the beginning. No, at the start. I'm just gonna film it and see what happens. And I'm not gonna live stream it initially. I'm just gonna film and see how it goes and see if I can get another one going and maybe regularly. But just gonna
Sure, you could always just bank them.
Yeah. yeah, so just testing it out and go from there. I don't know what kind of content could come from it, but I'm excited. I'm not trying to think about too much of the digital aspect of it for now, but certainly has crossed my mind the potential stuff there. But my focus is going to be on selling enough tickets to not be canceled, not have the show canceled, is step one, which is not easy. It's hard enough to get people to come out for a free show, having to pay regular ticket prices. So without having no offense to Connor, but without having a nationally touring headliner coming in, which we see that comedy clubs give away tickets for touring comedians in town all the time because they have trouble getting the word out for people who aren't huge names. So certainly a challenge, but see where it goes. I'm excited.
Alrighty, that's great.
Cool.
So let's maybe end the podcast and then do a quick promo.
Sounds good.
All right, this has been Comedy or Worse. Bye, everybody.
Bye.